Okay, everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are watching us from on this beautiful Monday. We are back with the Monday installment of ELF Live. I'm your co-host, Nick Alfieri, coming to you live from the West Coast of the United States. We said it before, this is a global program. We are all over, and we've got some people from all over the globe in the chat. But of course, with me today, as always, is my buddy Matt Bressington, live out of the United Kingdom. What's going on, Matt?
No, just Sam. I'm good. I'm feeling great. I mean, except for the obvious, like
We'll
Viking
get into
in the
that.
room. Yeah, we'll get into that one. But yeah, I think overall this week was had some interesting plot points. I think they're going to be quite important come the end of the year.
It's a good way to put it. Saturday was especially fun. Sunday, maybe not so much, but sometimes that's the way it goes. Everybody in the chat, welcome into the show on this beautiful Monday. As you see, we are live on multiple platforms: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. Wherever you comment from, wherever you're watching from, your chat comes in here. It comes on screen. You're part of the show. You guys help make this show with Matt and I. We can't do it without you. So make sure you put your comments in there. All right. And we've got some people all the way from Ghana. Okay. Welcome into the program. We've got some people from Germany. Lil Najib says, please speak English. Yeah. Matt, what do you think? Should we speak English on this one today?
I can speak a few words in Azerbaijani, and that's about it in terms of my bilingualism, not very good.
You know what? We'll do everybody a favor and we'll stick with the English today. Everybody, Niall Patton, the GFL great linebacker with the Munich Ravens. He's up there. The flock, the black flock, dark flock was feeling good after the game this weekend. We had some good ones. As always, on the Monday shows, we're going to go through all the individual game recaps, talk about them, what went well, what did not go well, who we like. We'll take a look at the updated playoff picture because at this point in the season, that stuff changes every single week. You got to stay locked in. And then, of course, as always on Monday, very important to stick around for the MVP voting, okay? We are going to nominate here on the show 2 players to be officially nominated for MVP of the week, and you guys help us decide that, so stick around. Put in the chat where you are watching from, and also do us a favor, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, whatever platform you're watching on. Help spread ELF football out to the masses, and everybody knows that's just a good thing for the game of football. All right, Matt, what do you think? Should we dive on into these games?
I absolutely think we should, Nick. Let's get into it.
Let's get into our individual games, starting off with a very, very, whoa, Maxie, that's the wrong graphic, isn't it? There we go. Very, very interesting game with the back-to-back champion, Rhein Fire, coming into beautiful Innsbruck, Austria to play the Raiders Tirol, Tivoli Stadium in the mountains. I say it every time it's brought up, one of the best stadiums in all of the European League of Football. This was, let's call it a bit of a surprise, Matt Bressington, because I think on this show last week, we talked about how we thought the Rhein Fire would probably win by a touchdown or 2, or maybe even 2.5 scores. Boy, oh boy, were we wrong. The Raiders Tirol must have heard that one, and they shut us up quite handedly, I would say. What do you make of this game?
Like you said, I don't think we really expected the Raiders to be massively competitive in this one. And not only were they competitive, they kind of looked like they dominated large parts of this game. Rhein Fire in the red zone wasn't really cooking at a ton of flags of just like silly stuff, illegal motions and not being set before the snap. And they just never really looked clicking on offense. On defense, that Raiders run was just too much for them. The defense looked gassed after a while, and eventually the Raiders are kind of just able to impose their will, which, given the playoff situation, Nick, is absolutely huge for both of these teams.
It absolutely is. Jamal says in the chat, Athletes Forum, Raiders are no pushover. Let's put some respect on the silver and black. And Ricardo Oliveira says, surprise for who? Well, Ricardo, surprise for a lot of people except for you, apparently. Good job on predicting that one. This was interesting, Matt. I mean, you did say it with the penalties. I think that the Raiders had 1 penalty and the Rhein Fire had 9. They outgained them in yards. The Rhein Fire did 464 to 343, and they absolutely dominated time of possession. But those penalties right there, and also, dude, the Raiders Tirol busting out a couple trick plays. Also, you had that double reverse pass, and you had another trick play. I can't remember exactly what it was just kind of catching Rhein Fire off guard here. What do you make of this, Matt? Is this the Raiders Tirol telling the league, hey, we mean business and we are here and we're in that conversation, or is this just an indictment on the Rhine Fire?
I think Aiden summed it up quite well with like Death, Texas, and Raiders finish 8-4. I think you can they've been 8-4 every single season they've been in the ELF, for those who are not aware. And this season they seem to have I guess fulfilled their own self-fulfilling prophecy, because they're trying to go for it again. It's so strange. They've got the toughest schedule in the league. They've got Munich, they've got Madrid, and they've got Rhine again coming up. This is a massive win. I think they, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, I think they needed this win in order to get the momentum for that tough stretch at the end of the year. So do I think they're a playoff team? Maybe. And it depends, right? They're going to have to win some away games to Rhine and to Madrid. And I think that's two very tough places to go. But I can generally see them potentially going 8-4 again this year, which is not something me and you predicted before FIBA. We got that kind of wrong.
There we go. Death, Taxes, and the Rhine Fire going 8-4. Marcus says the fire is dimming. Ooh, there we go. And then the Tellyhead LOL says the Raiders simply outplayed the Fire the whole game, made them look mediocre. I thought it was kind of interesting because I've been a little bit surprised at how little Chad Jeffries has been throwing the ball in games. We're seeing him throw the ball 12 times, 14 times in all these games. All of a sudden this week, they open it up. He throws the ball 42 times. And he went 28 for 42. He did have 363 yards passing. And their new wide receiver, Mark Pope, came in, looked pretty solid. What do you make of that the Rhine Fire finally opened up the passing game?
It's a start. They again, numbers wise, they look great if you just look at the numbers. But if you look at the tape and where it's coming, just like silly mistakes in the red zone, like I said before, and just not finishing drives. Like you can have like you said, 263 yards, but only one touchdown it's not enough. You can very rarely win a game with one passing touchdown. You also account in that fumble that was a little bit memed, which for the Cam Newton one, which I thought was a little bit rough on Chad, but it was a lot of Fire fans have been quite, let's say, vocal. As Ryan Fire fans known for being a little bit vocal, that they miss One Way J. So that's been an interesting plot point to finish.
Well, that's interesting that you bring that up because Jamal says this: Tom Sula, Jadrian, Glenn, Andrew, who do the Fire miss the most? Obviously, this is a different Rhine Fire team. ELFpedia says Jim Tom Sula is missed the most, I guess. No emotions in the team zone. That's interesting. Tom Sula, obviously a great culture setter. Well, his experience and sort of that bravado that he brought. Not having him on the sideline, that's got to have some sort of impact. And then Matt, of course, Karen Hogg, who is the biggest Munich Ravens fan of them all, says, that's not the Chad we knew from past seasons. After you guys disregarded Chad. No, you didn't disregard Chad. Chad left you guys. He broke up with you. But you're probably happy to see that. What do you make of that, Matt?
I think I'll go for Tom Sula as well. Me and you met Tom Sula during the awards, and he just gets you fired up about football like no one I've ever met before in my life. So I think he would probably be the guy they're missing the most. And then Chad, of course, he's kind of coming into a very different team, but they're not like overly different. I know they had a ton of injuries at receiver. They had a receiver come in for his first ever ELF game. So there's a lot of change. Running backs, they've had injuries. Offensive line, they've had injuries as well. So maybe I think people judging just Chad, and maybe they need to be looking at other people as well, because he's been trying. It's just not quite clicking for them, especially with the coaching changes, offensive coordinator and stuff like that. It's a very difficult situation for him to be in at the moment.
Our director, producer, Maxie, says he thinks Andrew Weidinger is the most missed, former offensive coordinator, obviously now back in Spain with the Madrid Braavos. I do have to give a shout out to the broadcaster of this game, John Mannon, who's been involved in European American football for a quarter of a century. And this guy brings the energy, especially when he's broadcasting Raiders T-Roll games. He's been doing this for years, and this guy just brings a unique energy to the game. Got to give a shout out to our broadcasters. And Matt, it's not just because I'm also a broadcaster, okay? All right? That's not why I want to highlight it. I just like good calls on the games. It adds a lot to the viewing experience, don't you think?
I absolutely agree. He's one of my favorites. He's one of the very few commentators that my mum's recognizes when she hears it on the TV. So, like, he has a great voice, and I love him. I do. I want him to know that as well as I look down the barrel of the camera.
John, if you're watching this program, good job. Keep it up. Love when you call, especially when you call Raiders games. All right, so there we have it. The Raiders T-Roll, surprising a lot of people. Not Ricardo Oliveira, not surprising him. but surprising a lot of people in defeating the Rheinfire 35-18. It was a good kickoff to the weekend. And then, actually, let's bring up our next game, which I actually had the privilege of calling this one. Look at me bringing the broadcasting back into the play. The Prague Lions playing against the Vienna Vikings. Now, week one, the Prague Lions held up pretty well against the Vikings. They lost 6-28, but they were a one-score game at halftime. Pretty impressive. A lot of people were impressed by them back then. Different story this week, Matt. The Vienna Vikings, led by our boy Benjamin Holmes. I see Alex Malchow is in the chat there. I know he's going to be spamming Ben VP. He did look like he was in Ben VP form this week. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, this was a rough one. I really annoyed a lot of people in Vienna when I said that Prague were going to win on the weekend, but there was just, honestly, this team looks spectacular. I think that slip up against Rhine was really weird looking back on it, because this looks like a championship team. Like you said, Ben was on MVP form. Aaron Donkor is incredible. Lucky is one of the best defensive players in the league, regardless of nationality. They have Timmy Nukas returns to ELF and made a big impact. Like Divine Buckarab as well. Like, there's pieces all over that are just championship caliber. I think top to bottom, we look at the depth. Even Niels Keimel, who I've been following for a while through my days of Europe's Elite, he has been such an important part. And he's only a 20-year-old receiver making one-handed snags in the end zone. So he's been great. Florian Bierbarmer is just an absolute weapon. And it was tough. It was tough. Prague, they didn't ever look like they died, which I liked. But, of course, getting shut out offensive, they had some struggles, couldn't really get Willie P going. And against that Vienna defensive front, it's really hard to get Adam Zuzelka going as well, because, my goodness, this does look like a championship team.
It really does. ELFpedia says Donkor is a monster. And yeah, I was calling his name a lot early. He had a big sack early, another TFL, a lot of pressure all day on Javarian Smith, just making his day a nightmare, really. Alex Malchow says Ben VP is back. You know what? He did look like Ben VP this past week. Very poised, really creative, getting stuff done. That offense was just humming. He distributed the ball to like 8 or 9 different receivers. And it was just an impressive showing by them. Matt, what do you make of the Prague Lions? I mean, they had the 4-game win streak, and everybody was very excited. I know, obviously, you picked them to win this week. It was a little bit of a cheeky pick, kind of just being a little bit contrarian. What do you make of the Prague Lions? How do they bounce back from this?
I think the bounce back comes with their schedule. They do have an easier side of the schedule when it comes to that level of the ELF. And don't call me crazy, Nick, but I think they win every single game for the rest of the year. And that's not me being ridiculous, because they've got currently following the Panthers, the Enthroners, the Mercenaries twice, and the Galaxy. These are teams they've already beat, and against the Mercs, I think they beat them both times. So I think playoff race, Prague are going to be in that. Then
You're not crazy for that one, Matt. When you say that schedule out loud, the only one that people might raise their eyebrows at would be Frankfurt. But guess what? Yeah, they've already beat Frankfurt. Yeah, they already beat Frankfurt, which you know very well, Matt, because you were predicting at the start of the season and everybody was chirping at you for it. So I think that it's very realistic to say, yeah, that they would bounce back from that and really have some success in the second half of the season. But I think this was a good one for the Vikings, also just to really reestablish themselves as, a dominant championship contender. Their O-line was incredible, and it was just an easy day for them. So Matt Bressington's Prague Lions unfortunately dropped by 34 points to the powerhouse Vienna Vikings. All right, Matt, the next game that we're going to talk about, I think, was the best game, one of the best games of the year so far. Certainly the best game of the weekend, and in the top 3 or 4 for best games of the year. Maxi, bring us on down to Spain, because the Munich Ravens travel down to sunny Madrid to play the Braavos. And boy, oh boy, was this a thriller, a back and forth game. And you know what? The Munich Ravens were actually down 9-26 at halftime. It was 6-26. They're down by 20 points. Kicked that field goal right before halftime, got 3 points closer. And then the Munich Ravens kind of dominated that third quarter. But the fourth quarter, back and forth scoring, coming all the way down to the final field goal attempt, which of course was missed. This was a crazy one. Matt, give me your thoughts.
There are so many different storylines we can talk about in this one, so I'm sorry I'm probably going to miss a couple. But first and foremost, I think it was the second largest comeback in ELF history, which is something to, thanks to ELFopedia on their page for that one. Then it was one of the highest scoring games. It was one of the highest in terms of yards. We said 1,000 yards. I think it was just short of 1,000 yards, but just short of 1,000 yards is still a hell of a lot of fun on offense. But congratulations, Molina, for being all-time Madrid Braavos rushing leader. So that's pretty cool for him. Reed Sinnett with 17 for 17 and just in the first half. He was on absolute fire. It was Tabor time for the second time in a row.
Ooh.
He looks like an absolute league superstar. He's actually having a better season than Zach Edwards did in his first year, and it's actually kind of comparable to Zach Edwards' close to MVP game. So Tabor is on incredible trajectory. Munich, people laughed at me, Nick, for having Munich at 2 in the power rankings.
Maybe they did.
Maybe they're not. Maybe they're 1.
There were people.
There were people. Maybe they're 1. I'm just saying, sure, they gave up 40, but to have a shootout with Madrid and win is a tough thing to do. Madrid, though, this defense, if they had a few little adjustments on defense, maybe some, I don't know, pieces or whatever, then they could really be in it. But this may be now in the coffin in terms of trying to get to those wildcard spots. A lot of teams going for it.
Yeah, there are a lot of teams going for rounds. Really competitive there, kind of like that 4, 5, 6, 7 range of some of these teams. General Patton says, talk about the refereeing. I don't know, Matt. You have any comments on the refereeing? You guys ended up winning there, Niall. What do you want us to say?
I think it was all right. Maybe a little bit back and forth, but I can't think of any calls that were egregious off the top of my head.
I'm looking right here. Niall, you guys had 10 penalties and the Madrid Braavos had 8. No big deal. Seems pretty fair. What do you want us to say, Niall? Put it in the chat. Tell us what you want us to talk about on the refereeing situation. Rising Rhino says Ravens are moving up. And you know what, Matt? We were just giving you a little bit of shit for the Prague game previously to try to predict that the Prague Lions would beat the Vienna Vikings. Well, guess what? We very accurately predicted this game, that it would be a shootout just like this, close to 1,000 yards, 40-43, one of the most exciting games that we've had in the ELF. And it was just a great showing from the Ravens as well. The young quarterback, man, Russell Tabor, to help lead that comeback, come out of halftime and absolutely dominate the third quarter. I think they had 3 scores in the third quarter there coming out of halftime. Got to give a shout out there to Coach Kendall Ellison and their coaching staff for making the adjustments at halftime as well, because there's definitely a tone switch coming out in the second half. So, Matt, what is it about the Munich Ravens that had you put them up even before this game up so high in the power rankings?
I think, like you said, Kentrell deserves a ton of credit. He's been at ELF for years, a pioneer of some of the best defenses we've ever seen in the ELF. So this defense is not quite Hamburg's back in the day, but they have some amazing pieces all over. They've got nits. They've got young cornerbacks, European on both sides. They then have just an incredible defensive front. They have ballers all over the field. Then on offense, you just add Tabor. You add Malik Stanley, who's just a phenom, great offensive line, a good running back, Okonwu, one of the best young tight ends in the league. This team is absolutely stacked from a talent standpoint. Add great coaching into that, and it's just a recipe for success. I think it's not ridiculous to say they might be a favorite to win the league. I know they're 6-1. Some people calling into question, but who have they played? And they forget they've beaten the Surge, and now they've beaten Madrid, and they've also beaten the Raiders.
Hey, they're very, very fair points right there. Karen Haig says, in Coach Ellison and Callahan, we trust. I've got a question, Matt, both for you and for the chat. Everybody in the chat respond to this. Which dynamic duo of quarterback receiver that we saw in this game do we like better, is more entertaining to watch? Russell Tabor and Malik Stanley with the Ravens, or Reed Sinnett, and Aaron Cruikshank on the Madrid Braavos? Cruikshank, Sinnett, or Tabor and Stanley? Which one is a more dynamic duo with quarterback, wide receiver? Chat, give me your answers. Matt, give me your answer.
So, Paul, sounds like choosing between cake or waffles. Both are great. I'm gonna go for Sinnett and Cruikshank. I just think that they have maybe more of a combination of routes. Not to say that Stanley and Tabor don't. Again, this is 2 phenomenal duos. I am going to go for Cruikshank, though. That play, I know they scored it a little bit too early, but that weird juke into that hurdle was just phenomenal. He's a box office receiver, and this is his worst game in the ELF, by the way, because he's the first time he's ever not got 100 yards, which is a wild statement. That's his worst game, but
yeah,
he did phenomenal. I'm going to give it to him, but it's slim margins.
Even after that pathetic performance of only 97 yards. Absolutely pathetic by Aaron Cruikshank standards. Still very, very impressive. Most people in the chat, Matt, are saying Sinnott and Shank as well. Most people. Of course, you got Karen saying Tabor Stanley. You got one. Nadine Freitag also says Tabor and Malik. But most are going with the Madrid duo right there. So this was one of the most exciting games that we've had so far this year. Best of the best of what the ELF has to offer. We love it when these two type of teams face off on a Saturday night in the summer. I mean, what more can you ask for? I was out on a boat. Okay. It's 4th of July weekend in the United States, right? I'm out there on a boat in the sun. Everyone's having fun. I'm sitting in the corner of the boat with my iPhone watching this game because it was so exciting down to the final seconds on the clock. That's how much we love it. So Madrid Braavos dropping one to the Munich Ravens. Impressive showing by both of the squads, but Ravens leaving Spain with another win, and they rise up to 6-1. So that, Matt, those are our Saturday games. A little bit more exciting. We're going to buzz through our Sunday games as well. Not quite as exciting, but Maxie, go ahead and bring us up onto our first Sunday game, which was, of course, the Cologne Centurions. The Paris Musketeers and the Helvetic Mercenaries. Obviously, we talked earlier in the week about all the turnover and the shuffling going on with the with the Mercenaries roster, a lot of new faces, a lot of new pieces. And this is just a tough thing to have going on any week, let alone when you're playing a team like the Paris Musketeers. And the Musketeers just absolutely dominated. Matt, what do you have on this one?
Yeah, light work for them, to be honest. Up 60 something by halftime. It was a demolition. Easy for them. Henderson played well. Tegedan played well. Tegedan might have been a good fantasy pickup to get, maybe, because he played quarterback and receiver in this game. But yeah, it was just not great. It was Mercs couldn't do too much. They had their new imports in. They had a ton of new players in, but it was very clear they weren't gelled together. And to be honest, I think, no disrespect to Norwood, I just think they need a quarterback in that team, not necessarily an athlete or a receiver, because he is a receiver by trade, a good receiver. I'd like to see him maybe play receiver. But it's been difficult for them to move the ball in any kind of offensive way.
It really has, and it might get even more difficult because we have breaking news from our director, producer, Maxie, that the Helvetic Mercenaries have released their American wide receiver, Keelan Cole. Matt, you were a little bit critical of him earlier in the year because he just wasn't producing up to the standards that we kind of expected from a former NFL guy who played serious NFL snaps. What do you make of them getting rid of him?
To be honest, I hate to say it, probably a good thing. I think you get maybe Norwood to play receiver. I just said he played receiver at UCLA. It's great pedigree. That is a speedy, fast slot guy who can take the top of the defense. I think you play him at slot. You get in a more natural fit quarterback, and I think that's a good switch out, to be honest. I like Norwood as a receiver a lot.
Yeah, I think. I mean, he's an athlete playing quarterback, really, right there. And you might get him a little bit more in a natural position if you're moving. Get in a quarterback there and throw him the ball, perhaps. What's your takeaway on Paris right now? Where do you sit with them? Where do you sit with Jalen Henderson and the Musketeers?
I mean, they had a murderer's row of tough games. I think people are still sleeping on Jalen. I know stats aren't bursting off the table of he's in the top 10 for passing yards or anything like that, or he's not got 30 touchdowns to 3 picks like Reed Sinnott does, but he's been consistently good. He's been great on the ground. He's picked up a lot of steam over the last couple of weeks. I know he didn't have the greatest of starts, but now he's looking good. I mean, 9 for 13, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns on the ground, 5 total touchdowns in one half of football. It's pretty good going, regardless of the team you're playing,
Not bad at all. Really curious to keep an eye on Paris here in the back half of the season. Guys in the chat, really quickly, we'll have a little delay on the chat here. How do you fix the Helvetic Mercenaries? What do you do? What are your moves here after all of these guys that have been shuffled around? The signing deadline is coming up next week, okay? If you're handling the Helvetic Mercenaries, what do you do in the chat? Jamal, I know you got some ideas. Put them in the chat right there and let us know. We are going to move on to the next game, but your chats will come on in, and if you got anything good, we'll pop them on up. So there we have it. Paris Musketeers, unsurprisingly, dominating the Helvetic Mercenaries. All right, Maxie, move us on to our next game. And that is the Cologne Centurions against the Wroclaw Panthers. Another beatdown here. Were you surprised by this one, Matt?
No. To be honest, no. I mean, the Panthers, they're a solid middle of the league team. I know some people got upset that I said they were the worst Panthers team in Panthers history, but I do still believe that. But David showing his skill, 4 touchdowns on the ground for him. I'm a little bit confused, Nick. I know DJ and me, great friends, but
Buddies.
the best. But I can't help but feel they're not using David enough. This guy is a former Homegrown of the Year award winner. 13 carries, was joint with DJ on runs, and I just want to see a bit more of him. He's a great running back, and I feel like if they don't utilize him and give him enough of the rock, he could be a very attractive import to a ton of different teams. I think he's going to be in high regard. So if I'm the Panthers, I'm not doing red alert, but I'm going to start giving Zozo more action personally.
Yeah, I think that there's some credibility to that. I mean, I know a lot of teams would probably be after a really high profile running back like him. Austin Wilson says the Panthers haven't beat a team with even a single win. Is that correct? ELFBD, is that correct? I think that's right.
So
I'll
probably
go ahead
right.
and trust you on that. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah, because I think they beat the Enthroners. I'll double check where you talk about the game. Hold on.
All right, there we go. Just going back to what I asked you guys in the chat here with how do you fix the mercenaries? Jamal says, quick fix, find a way to be the Kalanda Broncos. Alex Malchow says, Control Alt Delete the mercs. Okay, a little bit of keyboard technology. Aiden Stevenson, find some guys from the Swiss League who for some reason want to punish themselves. Oh, you guys have some serious recommendations here, but also you guys might just be roasting the mercenaries a little bit. I mean, Matt, they've got talent in Switzerland. They've got to figure it out in the offseason. Not to go back to that game. But yeah, Max, you can move us on forward here. So the Wroclaw Panthers absolutely dominating the Cologne Centurions. Not too many people surprised by that one. Let's go ahead and move on to our next one, which is the Stuttgart Surge. My buddies, my favorite team. The Fehervar Enthroners traveling all the way from Hungary to play the Surge. And this one also was a pretty one-sided route. Lars Heydrich playing quarterback for the Stuttgart Surge. Riley Hennessy not even participating in the game. And the Surge were still absolutely dominant in this one. Matt, what do you got on here?
Yeah, shout out Lars Heydrich, man. He made a case. Now, there's a lot of people who are going to be mad at this one's well as a competitive position. He might be one of the best German quarterbacks in the league. You look at his track record, he's got 18 career touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. For a German quarterback, very impressive. I know that's weighted stats at the end of games sometimes, but still in this one, did very well. 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. That pick was on a deflected pass. He got the ball to Harley Jr. a ton, who is looking like a really nice bright spark for the Surge. Like, he looks great. Daniel Pedro with that funky return as well. Glad to see him more orchestrated into this team's attack. But yeah, it was simple for them. I think the Enthroners wise, like, I know Thomas, who is a diehard Enthroners fans, a bit annoyed at some of their decision making, but like, I don't know, man. They don't have much of a run game. John Cole was great, but it just seems like sometimes it is just throw it up, throw it up, throw it up. Oh, it's third down. Well, we'll throw it up again, and then we'll punt it afterwards and give it back to the Surge. That felt like some parts of the game plan in this game.
Yeah. Aiden Stevenson said Enthroners are probably the best winless team, and Tellyhead says the Enthroners are my favorite of the winless teams for sure. And yeah, granted, what was on the field wasn't all too exciting, but Marcus does say, okay, yeah, for most, this game was meh. For me, it was the game of the year so far. Had my daughters with me, met Florian, Aniko, Petra, and got to interview Mike Harley Jr. and John Cole. Those are some of the photographers that do great work for the Enthroners, as well as Florian does great stuff for the Surge. So got to give a shout out there to some of our photographers who capture some of these great moments for these teams. And then, of course, he said he met 5 or 6 Quiver users, Matt. Okay, that's pretty awesome right there. Good Quiver community in the ELF. You got to get back on there, Matt. Get your bag chatters back up.
Yeah, you're right. I do actually need to do that. You know what? I'll do it after the show. Right
after the show. You answer after the show. So Stuttgart Surge bouncing back after that loss to the Munich Ravens last week, and they're well on their way in the playoff hunt. We'll take a look at the playoff picture here in a second, but absolutely dominating 55-12 at home, which brings us to our last game of the weekend, Matt. And that is the Hamburg Sea Devils and the Nordic Storm. And this one, a little bit closer than a lot of people thought it might be. Our director, producer Maxie right now says this was the game of the year. Hamburg showing a little bit of life. Matt, I think, well, I don't think, I know that you're a little bit disappointed in the Nordic Storm with their performance on this one. Tell me why.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just a bit flat, right? I'm not the only one that saw that. They had the game against the Mercs delayed last week, and I think they came out flat. You look on the offense, they have some moments. They kind of, some questionable calling, I think. They were like the half-yard line. They didn't try and go for a sneak with a six. Like, Jadron's a tall guy, he's about 6'2", could just reach over. They tried to go for some goal line fades, and then they had that pick in the red zone as well, and then they just couldn't finish drives. And then third down wise, they just could not stop Hamburg for anything, for toffee. But Leon, like, going into this, was not having a good season, don't get it twisted. But in this one, he actually looked pretty good, like all around. Kuzman Kai is still leading probably the rookie of the year campaign, but they just looked flat. There was no like spark, there was no energy. I know some people are going to disagree with that, but when you face a team that's been beaten 57-0 just 1 week ago, and you let them within 6 when you're a team that's meant to be going towards a championship, I said on the comment section, you can't play like that against teams in the playoffs. And I think that is true. I'd be interested to see what you think about that one, because they got some tough matchups. And I don't know now. My hype for the Storm is kind of maybe simmered a little bit after this performance.
Okay, maybe just starting off really hot and we're really entering back into reality here. I mean, they shot out into the stratosphere in these first few weeks of the season, first half of the season, maybe bringing them back down a little bit. Maybe that sort of a new kid on the block aura has worn off. They are now just a team in the ELF. Very possible. You talked about the third down situation, Matt, that the Storm couldn't stop the Hamburg Sea Devils. Sea Devils were 9 for 14 on third down. It's pretty damn good. Storm were just 1 for 5. That's just 20% right there. So that third down story was very, very true. Karen Hogg says, man, Hamburg deserved the win. So bummed for them. Rising Rhino says, disappointing showing by the Storm defense was what you were saying right there, especially on third down. And then Tellyhead, Hamburg have been really disappointing this season, but they deserved better this game. So what do you think this is then, Matt? You're feeling that this is really the Storm coming back down to reality. I know we'll have power rankings later in the week. Do you want to give us a little bit of a hint on what you're feeling power ranking wise? Because you've had the Storm up near the top.
I believe I had them at the top.
Top, sure thing.
Let me be clear. They are not the top at the moment. They're falling down, I think, to 4th. If I have it up on my screen, I've got Vienna taking that top spot. I won't ruin all of it. We'll save a bit of anticipation. But I think now they sit at 4th. And I think, I'm not going to say fraud check because people, that's got a load of connotation. I don't think they're fraud. I do still think they're a championship caliber team. But you look at their schedule, and people called into Panthers, they haven't won against a team that's got a win, which is true, by the way. And you look at them, and they haven't played Fire yet. They've only played the Mercs. They played the Vostad. They played the Galaxy. That'd be a bit weird this year. Thunder, Hamburg, these aren't championship level teams. I'll be really interested to see how they do against Rhine. But given Rhine's weird season as well, like, they could have no playoff teams in their division, and potentially, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but they could have no teams that go 500 within their division. So that's going to say a lot. I think it was Jamal compared them to the Vikings a few years ago, where they got all the way through regular season easy, then dropped into playoffs. I think that maybe could be in the Storm's future if they don't correct some of the mistakes they did against Hamburg.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, that's a fair point. ELFpedia says, having a team at the top which has such a schedule, we should talk about this. And yes, the schedule is reasonably easy, I would say, except for, I mean, if you're looking from the start of the season point of view, Frankfurt would have been a formidable opponent, and then obviously the Rhine Fire back-to-back champ. So the schedule maker is saying, okay, this hot new team, we're scheduling the back-to-back champ for their out-of-conference game. But just like you said, Matt, the Rhine Fire, not really the Rhine Fire that we've known from the past. I mean, I could very much see them winning out and going undefeated. Maybe they drop one game to the Fire. Who knows? But yeah, what's that going to look like come playoff time? Have they really had a test? I mean, I guess and then they're getting maybe a little bit tested here by Hamburg, which is, we don't want to be saying that at all if we're talking about them as a championship contender, right?
No, I agree. And like, you look at some of the other teams like Stuttgart Surge, they look so good. Vienna this week looked amazing. You got Munich and the Raiders making real statements. And then this one was just like maybe I'm taking a step back. Maybe I'm thinking this team, they looked a little bit, like I said, flat. Maybe this was an important game. Maybe they get lackluster towards the end of the season. Maybe they drop one. Maybe that first seed isn't guaranteed. Then we'll see some maybe a bit more fight. I don't know. I just think they need a bit of pep in that step if they're going to try and go towards the end of the year.
Yeah, actually, ELFpedia says he has them at the third easiest schedule before the season as well. So I guess even if you're looking from that perspective back, 2 months ago, still pretty easy. Who knows? Jadrian, if you were watching, take this bulletin board material of us chirping at you guys, talking about your schedule and everything, and go dominate in the back half of the season. Dart Clark, back-to-back champion, former MVP. Let's take a look now. Those are our games. Maxie, throw that up. Let's take a look at the playoff picture, which, hey, we're talking about the Nordic Storm. They're still in it here. They're no longer in they've never been in the position of the bye week. And for those who are freaking out, because I still see people freaking out on social media, oh, why are the Storm in the bye week? They're under it has to do with your in-division wins, okay? Very simple. So I don't want to see any more comments about that. And if you guys who are watching the show here, you see some of those comments on social media, take care of that for us. Let the people know. That's why. But there is a little bit of a shuffle here in the playoff situation. Now you've got the Surge and the Musketeers looking to play each other. And then the Storm Raiders. That would be kind of an interesting one, especially, Matt, after we saw what the Raiders just did with the Ryan Fire. What do you think?
I think that's a very interesting matchup. I think Surge versus Paris too. That's a clash I want to see. We've like, geez, you know what I'm saying? Like, that could be a round 3 if they even it up at this one. Because the first one, defensive showcase, we got the next one coming up. Could be round 3. We'll see if it stays the same. But I mean, it's not outside the realm of the possibility to have an Austrian derby be in the final, which would be quite funny if it was the Raiders that got their first win against the Vikings in a final of a championship game. I'm not gonna lie.
You're talking crazy now, man. We know it's physically impossible.
Really, really bloody funny though, wouldn't it?
Impossible for the Raiders to defeat the Vienna Vikings. Impossible. You hear that, Raiders? I'm giving you bulletin board material. I'm feeling very fiery and feisty on this Monday morning. But I'm with you, Matt. It's interesting. And of course, the Vienna Vikings still sitting there in that number 1 spot, dominance, and the Ravens after the win against Madrid. They're sitting there with the bye week situation. But this will shuffle around. I wonder, Matt, do you think if one of these teams is to drop out, who do you think it is next?
Great question. I think it'll probably be the Raiders. I know that they've got a tough schedule. I think there's a lot of teams going for that next seed. Prague, Rhine, they're going to be going for a lot. I think they're probably I think they'll go like they'll yo-yo. They might take a win, take a loss. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Kind of keep back and forth.
Okay, there we have it. All right, everybody. If you guys have any opinions in the chat of who would be dropping out of the playoff picture next and who's going to be rising back into it, let us know. Put it in the chat. We'll see it right there. But for now, that's what we've got. Those are our games of the week in week 8. Now, everybody lock in as we do every Monday. It's time, Matt. We're going to be talking about the MVP candidates for week 8. And you guys help us decide who are going to be the official nominees, okay? And so let's buzz through who we've got on the list right now. Great performances this week, starting off with Reed Sinnott, quarterback for the Madrid Braavos, a great one, 35 for 43, 426 passing yards. Jiminy Christmas, 4 passing touchdowns. Sinnott, he was not in it to win it this week, but he did play pretty damn well. So Reed Sinnott. Matt, who we got next?
We got Harley Jr. with maybe a breakout performance from him. 6 catches, 190 yards, including that long one. Beautiful picture there, by the way. 2 touchdowns in a day and a win as well, which a lot of people take into consideration.
There's a beautiful picture right there. And then on the sticking with the wide receivers, back to the Madrid-Munich game, we have Malik Stanley, Russell Tabor's favorite target, 10 catches, 169 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the win down there in Spain. All right. Who else, Matt?
We got David Bajovsky, Zozo, coming in, 13 carries, 88 yards. I know I said they didn't use him much, but he got 4 touchdowns out of what they gave him, which is pretty spectacular.
Pretty spectacular. Just 13 carries and getting that. And then, of course, Brendan Bolio with the Nordic Storm. They did get the win. Another 100-yard plus receiving yard game for Bolio, 10 catches and tack on 3 touchdowns. This man's been absolutely dominant in his first year in the ELF. And then finally, Matt, who do we have?
Ricardo's moaning about you don't like it. Well, guess what? We got one of your guys, Hasselvanta, in 19 carries, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in a pivotal, I dare say, must-win performance. And he did against the Ryan Fire.
And they did, didn't they? That Raiders run game can always be counted on. All right, everybody in the chat, start typing away. That is who we've got in the conversation. If there's somebody else that we missed, put them in. We will consider it, okay? We've all got to work together now. We've got to come up with 2 names who are going to be officially nominated for MVP of the week. And of course, then you go on the Instagram story in the next 24 hours and you vote. Matt, is anybody jumping out to you right now that you think we absolutely have to have in, or do you feel pretty open?
I think I'm mostly open. I would give it to Aaron Donkor. I know people mention Aaron Donkor but just statistically didn't pop off. But he is fantastic, and I did love his performance. But for me, it's got to be Malik Stanley, the game-winning touchdown. He looked great all game. He was the safety blanket. He did phenomenal, multiple scores, 100-odd yards, 169 total. So he jumps out of me as the guy we need to have on. And he got the win as well. So
yeah, I think I'm with you. I think out of those names of like who would be concrete to me, I think that because I think also he had the go-ahead touchdown too, didn't he?
Yeah.
ELFpedia, just as you said, Matt, Aaron Donkor. Okay. He was, I mean, I don't think it showed up so much in the stat line, but he was absolutely dominant and disruptive. So if anybody else feels Aaron Donkor should be in the conversation, spam that name in there and make the case for him. Jesse Delgado says Malik and Bolio. Cordy says Brzozowski. Tellyhead says Hasselvanter went crazy though. This is tough, man. This is tough. All right, here comes back to the age-old question. Can you give a MVP nomination nod to a guy that lost? And if you can, well, then Reed Sinnett's got to be in there because what do you have, 426 yards or whatever it was? Just another absolutely stellar performance. I mean, offensively, they were great. It's just their defense didn't show up to play. And this is sort of the story of the Madrid Braavos. Guys in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, is it acceptable to have Reed Sinnett in the conversation even though they lost? Because I'm okay with it. I personally, Matt, I've come to terms with that. It's okay. What do you think?
I'm not mad. I know some people hate it, but I think it's fine to have a player that lost the game but still did really, really well. If it's like a standout game, I think Lou Moto in the comment just put about him having 17 for 17. It was incredible. I think him, Donkor, I know we can't have 3. I don't want to annoy Maxi, and Stanley are my like 3 that would be solid. I think Sinnett didn't get a win, so maybe I'd hold it more for like Donkor and Stanley. I do put a little bit of weight on it. I just said I didn't put that much weight on, but I put a little bit on it, but not as much as Ricardo, clearly.
Ricardo's pissed. Ricardo's really pissed that we're even having this conversation. Whew. Marcus says, Mike Harley Jr. Mike was absolutely fantastic. Actually, it was a big, big game. And also, hey, not to be overlooked, playing with a backup quarterback. He was not playing with the starting quarterback. That's interesting, Marcus. Should he be in the conversation, you guys in the chat? Anybody else that's not a Surge fan think that Michael Harley Jr. should be in the conversation? I know they're playing the Enthroners, not an absolutely dominant defense, but a very, very good performance with a backup quarterback. What do you make of that, Matt?
I would say, I mean, amazing performance. I want to take away from Harley. But like you say, winless team, didn't have much playoff implications in terms of the win. So I think I'm going to give it to Stanley's playing tougher competition. No disrespect to the Enthroners defense, but like Stanley's playing some savages. So I go for him. I mean, some people seem to be pretty fired up about, Stanley grown man business. He is incredible. He's a phenomenal player.
Matt, I think I'm having the hardest time I've had all year with getting our second. I think Malik Stanley's in there. Okay, Stanley's in there. Who in the hell is going to be our second nominee? Because everyone's got all these criteria, right? Oh, you can't have a person from a team that lost. Oh, you can't have a person that played a team that's not very good. Well, okay, that really minimizes the criteria. I mean, then the only person available would be Hasselvanter. But all right, he broke 100 yards. What do you think?
See, I know Max is going to be annoyed at me, but is it ridiculous to put Donkor in? Like, I know the stats aren't crazy, but like, I'll do the tape watch. I'll count the hurries if it means maybe we can. Maybe if the people in the chat want to do that, then give me some work. But he did, and he won. He did. Oh, yeah, he did. Maxi just put to me that they lost. No, they didn't. They won the game against my Prague Lions. Which hurts me to say. I'm pretty sure Maxi just did that, so I'd have to remind myself that they lost the game against the Prague Lions.
Can we do a vote here? Can we get a vote? I think we need a formal vote. Maxi, can you put up a vote, or should we have people vote just in the chat? Give us a second for the delay.
Because we do have the one. Like Stanley, I think we can all agree and deserve.
Stanley's in, guys. Stanley's in. Don't vote for Stanley. He's in. He's going to be nominated. He'll probably win. We're going to get a vote set up here, okay, for the next couple guys, and you guys got to vote. And then, Matt, will we honor the results of the vote?
We're for the people. We are the people's choice. So I think we absolutely have to.
We stand for the people. Ricardo Oliveira says, "What's the problem about Lucas?" There's no problem. I mean, it's just, I would love to, if I'm talking about an MVP for a running back for a weekend, I would like to see, 150 yards.
David, 4 touchdowns most of all, tied most of all time. That's what gets you like an MVP, but David played against the Cologne Centurions.
True. All right. Do you see this right here? MVP of the week. You enter hashtag and then the name of the person that you want to vote for. Okay. Hashtag and then name. We're going to give you guys 60 seconds right now to put it in, and we will honor the results of the vote. More time to be on it. Maxie says give him more time. All right, we'll give you 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes here.
See, Donk, someone there with a YouTube channel you guys should definitely check out if you wanted to look at some ELF stuff. That one said Donkor, then ELFpedia with Donkor as well. Braavos fan with Bolio. That's surprising. Madrid Braavos fan says Bolio.
Wow, that's interesting. You'd think the Madrid Braavos. We did roast Madrid Braavos fan last week for trying to get their own players for MVP. I do respect that they went for another team here. I'm going to vote. I'm going into YouTube right now. I'm going to vote. Look at Doncor. Well, Alpha Omega Energy. You're not voting if you say it has to be voted. You got to vote, brother.
This is a democracy. We just celebrated America being a democracy like a couple days ago. This is the vibe of the week that's currently going on.
Look at that. Bolio's coming in hot. Doncor. I just put in a vote for Doncor there.
Yeah, there's Harley. There's one from that. There's David's got one as well. Lucas Hasavanta. I want to put that as one word, otherwise it won't come up for sure.
Yeah, make sure you put it in. Hasavanta says Marco Kirkenberg. Looks like it's a neck and neck with Doncor and Bolio up there. Hasavanter's just got 2. There you go. Sinnett's coming up.
Sinnett's coming through. Yeah, there's a comeback. We've got a 1 minute timer at the bottom of my screen, so we've got 57 seconds for you to go through. It's like an auction house, you know what I'm saying?
Here we go. Anybody for Doncor? Doncor, Bolio. 1%. All right, you have 50 seconds, and this timer's over. And Matt, I don't want to hear any complaining from anybody in the chat because they had the opportunity to make their voice heard. Okay?
They did.
Can vote. All right, you can vote. I mean, Matt, I like the Doncor thing. People love to look at stats.
They do.
But I broadcast that game. I called that game. I was saying his name the whole time.
Yeah,
he was absolutely disruptive.
30 seconds. And Lucky on the. Is this just to disrupt from the 24 seconds we got? Is Lucky and Doncor the best duo of European defensive ends we've ever seen?
Oh, it's got to be up there, dude. It's got to be up there. I mean, they were just killing your Prague Lions, man. I know you're upset. Right now, it's Bolio. Bolio is going to win. He's got 6 votes. Doncor's got 4. Any more? Oh, Hasselvanter's coming up with another one.
Even Quiver's got a vote for MVP of the week.
Oh, Quiver, the Quiver app, MVP of the week, bringing people together at the Enthroners Surge game. All right. Hey, we are honoring the vote, Matt. It's going to be, Brendan, Bolio will be. So we've got 2 wide receivers in the MVP nomination this week, presented by Citizen. Thank you, Citizen. Everybody, you know the drill. Go on social media, on the Instagram story, and you vote. Okay, we're doing a lot of voting here, Matt. Very democratic of us.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Max, you want to throw up what we've got coming up this week, just for a quick little glimpse? Because I am actually going to be off the show on Friday, and next Monday I'll be traveling back to Germany. So Jarvis will be stepping in, and on Friday, guys, it's going to be at 12 noon European time. I'm sorry to everybody in the United States and to other time zones. 12 noon European time on Friday with Matt and Jarvis. And we're waiting. There we go. Take a look. Up next, here's what we got. All right, so Matt, I'm going to be calling that Frankfurt Surge game. I'm thrilled. It's the first time I've ever gotten to call a Surge game, and you know I'm hyped for that. Which games jump out to you? What are you most excited for?
That is a fun one. I think, oh my goodness, Vienna, Paris.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a barn burn. And then Storm versus Fire, got a return of Jay Clark to, now that is a good one. I think that's, I got to pick one. I'm going to go for Vienna versus Paris. I think that's 2 teams at the top of that division right now. And that's scary. I'm going to go for that. I'm going to go for that one.
That's pretty good. Also, I mean, the Nordic Fire game also, man, that's going to be very interesting. Be very revealing for both these teams. So we've got those. And then, you know what, honestly, Prague Panthers. Could be interesting. Could be
It's fun one. I do think that Prague take it. It's at home. We are road champs. I think we're 4-1 on the road, but at home, it's a different story. Maybe Panthers gonna become a bit more of a chip after we've been talking so much about in the last couple of weeks.
Hey, they might. We give bulletin board material on this. We give bulletin board material on this show. Don't worry, Maxie. I won't tell them what you said. All right. There we have it, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Monday. Thanks for being in the chat, everybody. We really appreciate it. You make this really fun for Matt and myself. One more thing, make sure if you haven't done it, give a thumbs up, give a like, whatever platform you're watching on, help spread ELF football around to more people because we are all at the whims of the algorithms and we need that help. Matt, you got anything else for the people?
Prague comeback, playoffs for Prague, and have a good day.
There we go. All right, everybody, have a good one.